So I'm just a man that started as a bivocational pastor about 10 years ago in the church where I was saved 40 plus years ago. It's a small Baptist church in the country. I just don't feel worthy to be here today. I remember on the way out the door from Southwest Florida near Fort Myers, I hugged my wife and I said, "Did you ever in your wildest dreams imagine that I would be speaking at a conference for pastors and counselors in Tampa?" Yeah. And she said, "You're not in my wildest dreams." So I need to hurry up. I need to finish up here and get back and talk to her about her dreams. As a new pastor, not seminary trained, there was an area of preaching that I always avoided. It was the book of Revelation. It seemed almost impossible to understand all these visions that John had on the Isle of Patmos, how it intersected with Jesus speaking in Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13. I had to overcome that fear, and I did so by studying the Word of God in depth. As a result, I found myself later preaching verse by verse through the book of Revelation. And during that series, I unexpectedly happened upon something. I was studying about the church in Thyatira, Revelation chapter 2. You know, the church where Jesus said, "Notwithstanding, I have a few things against you, because you permit that woman Jezebel to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication." I began to research, what does this mean? Does it apply to the church today? And in the process, I ran across something on the internet that shocked me, something that I saw with my eyes that I still to this day cannot unsee, something that once I comprehended, I couldn't just let that be a one-and-done Sunday sermon. It was comprehensive sexual education. You have one of your local school districts that has adopted it. And the other thing is how the LGBTQ agenda is used to get their foot in the door to introduce comprehensive sexual education into our schools. This prompted me to become an advocate for protecting childhood innocence, so I started the organization called Operation Millstone, based on Matthew 18:6, where Jesus says, if you cause one of these little ones, the children, to stumble or to sin, it'd be better for you that a millstone was hung around your neck and you were drowned in the sea. Since its inception, Operation Millstone has engaged the local Lee County School Board and encouraged church engagement. And I got to tell you, in 1970, a Russian KGB agent defected and went to Canada. And he said this. He said, once people's morals have been debased, and I believe that describes our country today, education becomes indoctrination, entertainment becomes hypnotism, criminals become leaders, and lies become the truth. Has education become indoctrination? The Family book, teaching about two moms and two dads. Has entertainment become hypnotism? Have you been anywhere lately and watched a group of people sitting at a table, mesmerized by their phone, hypnotized by the entertainment that it provides? Have criminals become leaders? Look at our nation today. Has lies become the truth? Where people can say, I can change from a man to a woman or a woman to a man, when God clearly says he created them male and female in the beginning. Pretty much describes our nation today and our culture. But how has the church responded? Today, the majority of the churches teach, just follow your heart. But the prophet Jeremiah said, the heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. Today we say, come as you are. We offer a cheap grace that costs nothing, so it's worth nothing. Jesus said, go and sin no more. He said, love your neighbor as yourself. He said to one person, sell everything you have and follow me. Today, we say God has a special plan for your life, a plan to prosper you. But Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me. When the Apostle Paul was imprisoned in Rome, he wrote a letter to the church at Philippi. In that letter, he penned these words, for to you it has been granted on behalf of Christ, not only to believe in him, but to suffer for his sake. Bonhoeffer said it this way, we'll never be a victorious church until we see suffering as a divine gift. We're teaching an entire generation of Christians that their bodies are worth more than their souls. Professing Christians no longer believe that Christianity is worth suffering for or dying for. The church in America today is doing everything in its power to avoid suffering And that's an integral part of our faith. The church has fallen for the lie that if we remain neutral, that the government will leave us alone. The church has fallen for the lie that if we remain neutral, the culture will leave us alone. The church has fallen for the lie that if we love, we'll be loved in return when Jesus said we'll be hated. In an effort to remain neutral, we're losing our identity as believers. If the church continues down this road of self-censoring in order to appear to be neutral on controversial items, we'll no longer look any different than the culture outside the church. If you tolerate us as a church, then we'll tolerate your sin outside the church and stay out of the affairs of the government. Look what day it has brought us. Are we willing to compromise on truth for the sake of love? Is withholding truth really love? When we allow fear to drive us away from the gospel, from the truth, we're compromising on the Word of God. When we shrink back from sharing the truth that is so clearly articulated in the Word of God that it cannot be denied, is that really love? It may be that we're loving ourselves more than we're loving our neighbors. Are we really loving God when we have His Word, His Spirit dwelling within us, but we don't share its life-giving message for fear or concern of not being culturally relevant? Since when has the church been called to be culturally relevant? This explains, by the way, why the church is influenced by the culture as opposed to the church influencing the culture as it was made to be. Make no mistake, truth can be said in a hateful way. That would be contrary to the Word of God. Pastors must speak the truth in love. But we've taken it a step further. We don't say anything about the indoctrination of our children, the LGBTQ plus agenda. We don't say it from the pulpit because it's considered hate speech, when in reality, it's hate not to speak the truth. We are in essence cutting out passages of our scriptures to appease the culture around us. We are editing the content of the Bible to be more popular, more culturally relevant. Some would say these issues are political, and that the church has no place in politics. Politics are things like waste disposal, roads, bridges, taxes. Maybe at one time this was considered political, but it is clearly now about evil. Pastors, it is wrong to keep politics out of the church if it will result in the evil coming into the church. See this book? It's called It's Perfectly Normal. There's nothing perfectly normal about it. It's been around for 20 years, over 1 million copies sold. I can show you illustrations in this book that's meant for 10-year-olds that would shock you. This book is in the Lee County Public Schools. It's in the Lee County Public Libraries. I can guarantee you it's in your schools and libraries. Yep. This information in the hands of an innocent child is not political. It's moral. Taking a stand on this is not activism. It's evangelism. Calling this stuff out is not resistance to government, it's resistance to evil. It's just plain old-fashioned representing the Church of Jesus Christ to a lost and dying world. It's being salt and light. These are biblical concepts that the church should never shrink back from because the world gave it a new name, political. I speak at my church 3 times a week, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. Yet when I go to the school board and address them, which I do every time the doors are open, my palms get sweaty, my mouth gets dry, my heart races, my hands shake. It's very intimidating. You would think, as I speak at the school board, that I would be among people, spiritual leaders in the community. But you want to know who's there protecting childhood innocence? Moms, dads, grandmothers, grandfathers, conservative Christians. Mario Murillo says Christian moms go to the school board meetings to confront child porn in the classroom, and they look around and wonder, where is my pastor? Today it seems like the church is content to fiddle while Rome burns. The church must proclaim Jesus, who stands superior above all political agendas there. Thank you.